Well, it's Friday, and you all know what that means. As you know, New Japan Pro Wrestling concludes with the B block. Who will walk out as the winner to represent the B block to face the winners of the A block and World Tag League? That is going to be a very interesting to review because it's chaotic. But we're also going to review AEW Rampage featuring three matches involving the Continental Classic, two from the Blue League, one from the Gold League. And then we're going to see who levels up on this latest episode of NXT Level Up. But first things first, as you know, we had the recent upload from New Japan Academy with their showcase number 5 that originally took place back in November, but it was not broadcast on their YouTube since yesterday. So it's a good time now to review every match and see who's involved in this one. And then, of course, like always, we cap up our episode with some news updates that give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of pro wrestling, such as what events the promotions are throwing out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of pro wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel where we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere in the world pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next episode or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-timing news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of pro wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us or click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, all introduction has been set aside. It's time to go full speed ahead. So let's begin with our very first review, and this one is from NJPW Academy. Okay, New Japan Academy. Now, those who are not familiarized with this is where, of course, certain wrestlers they go to the New Japan Academy to, how do I say, get extra training to develop more of their wrestling craft. Many wrestlers have been there, like Trish Adora, Viva Van, and a few others. And of course, the coaches are none other than No Days Off, Mr. Fred Rosser, formerly known as Derry Young from WWE, of course, Time Splitter himself, Kushida, and of course the DKC. So they are the the actual trainers that train many of their students. So we're going to see those guys involved in this match. However, many of these talents come from various promotions, others that you may have known. Even international wrestlers come in there too. They even train at the LA Dojo. And this event took place, of course, at the LA Dojo back on November 23rd, but it was not uploaded on their YouTube channel until, of course, yesterday, the November 5th. So luckily for you guys, I decided, what the hell, let's just do it anyway. Now, our first match, we have Selvatico all the way from Costa Rica with Costa Rica Wrestling Embassy, which is my dad's home country. I enjoy to hear wrestlers coming from there. He takes on Raymond Bright. Now, don't know much about him. Now, I think some of you might think just because I mentioned the guy Vatico, I probably will root hit for him. Normally, I would, but thing is, I don't know much about the guy. I mean, he does have a cool gimmick. He's like a cat, but I wasn't too sure where this match was gonna go at all. But it seems like Benjamin Bright had the much better advantage because it seems like people like how he is. He was able to pick up a win with it looks more like a frog splash or a 5-star frog splash, like the same one that RVD uses. So I wasn't too sure exactly if that's what I thought I saw. Now, our next match, we have our only women's match. We have Angie Savage taking on someone you guys know, the Ultimate Baddie, and of course, the flight attendant of Top Flight, Layla Gray. So, yeah, some of you may ask, what is she doing there? Well, we know she has a bit more experience, but it's okay to relearn and try to rediscover yourself, try to add more things into your wrestling craft. And that's exactly what she did. I think many of you would think that maybe Layla Gray, who is well recognized, probably would have a better advantage. And that's exactly what she did when she applied the Batty Bomb in order to pick up the win against Angie Savage. Our next match, we have a tag team match. We have the tag team known as Live Danger, consistent of Danger Ross and Livewire Charlie. Now, these guys look more like a bunch of jocks, but in a very unique way. They face guys named Luke Curtis and Dante Griffin. Now, I don't know much about them, but watching this match, I thought in the back of my mind that Curtis and Griffin had this match under their control, but somehow it was, of course, Live Danger with the high voltage onto Curtis that allowed them to pick up the win when it was, of course, Ross that pinned Curtis, and just like that, it was win. I have to say, Live Danger are a very interesting team to watch, but it seems like Curtis and Griffin had this match won, but they didn't. So that's pretty much what I saw. Our next match, we have Tommy Mars versus Isaiah Bronson. Don't know much about these two guys. I mean, Tommy Mars looks more like a mix, like a 80s rock look, like Motley Crue type. I mean, because when you think of Tommy Mars, you think of Tommy Lee and Mick Mars. I don't know if the guy actually is a big fan of Motley Crue, but yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Motley Crue myself. But Isaiah Bronson, well, I don't know much about him, but if you guys notice, he wrestles barefoot. I don't know why wrestlers do that, but I wasn't too sure where this match was going to go at all. But it was Tommy Mars that walked away with the win with the jackknife. So that pretty much ends right there. Now, our main event is a very unique one. We have Zane J. He teams up with one of his teachers and coaches, the DKC. They face, of course, No Time Off, consistent of Mr. No Days Off, Fred Rosser, and, of course, Time Splitter Kushida. Now, of course, you would think in some capacity that the teachers will be the one to, of course, teach the student a lesson in some way. But there was a good moment where you thought that Zane J, who had, of course, Fred Rosser right where he wanted him, could have won this match. But unfortunately, it was Rosser who picked up the win on Zane J, and just like that, it was over. So it was a pretty good match. I have a pretty good event. I mean, I'm not complaining. But if you guys are interested in watching this event, go on their YouTube channel. It's for free. You guys can watch it from there. So look for NJPW Academy, and it's right there. So check it out. So I think we are done with this. So let's move on with, of course, New Japan Pro Wrestling with day 14th of World Tag League. Okay, New Japan Pro Wrestling. This is, of course, the epic conclusion in the B block. So the actual question remains, who will walk out as the winners? Now, however, I want to put this out on a whim here. This particular match was supposed to feature, of course, our current New Japan Pro Wrestling, or IWGP Tag Team Champions, but due to some circumstances, it's not going to happen. Hinara got hurt, so basically they are a forfeit, and there's been the talks about relinquishing about their the tactiles, but I'll get to that point on the news updates a little later because it affects it too. So we'll get to that. Um, anyway, let's move on. Now, our first match. This is the battle, of course, who will be at the bottom of the World Tag League. In this case, the Natural Classic Stevie and Tome Philippe are at 2 points with just four guys, Taka Michinoku and Taichi. So basically, whoever loses this match will be at the bottom. Now, I know deep down some of you would think just four guys should be the ones to win. I mean, I would have hoped that too, just by watching this. But unfortunately, that did not happen because it was Stevie who picked up the win by pinning Taka Michinoku, and just like that, they gained their next 2 points. And of course, Taka and Taichi are at the bottom of the barrel. Now, our next match, we have TMDK, Shane Hayes and Mikey Nichols taking on Bolton Oldleg and Toru Yano. So you would not have think that Toru Yano and, of course, Bolton Oldleg will make it this far. But they have to face a team that, as you know, were the former IWGP Tag Team Champions. So that kind of plays out in every way. Now, however, you probably would think, okay, TMDK does not have a chance. But it's more like a do or die type of match. But it ended, of course, with Bolton Oldleg applying the kamikaze on Shane Hayes, and just like that, they gained their next 2 points. Now, our next match, of course, is the House of Torture, or should I say the House of Morons, Ren Narita and Evil, taking on Yado and Hiroshi Tanahashi. Now, however, you can say that this match, that possibly Tanahashi would not and Yado will not advance, but however, this is more than that. This is a point for Evil to show that Tanahashi needs to retire. He doesn't want to wait another year. He wants him gone forever. To prove a point that he wants the world to see, Tanahashi is nothing more than a scumbag. And of course, Dick was going to get involved, but luckily, Tanahashi took care of his sorry ass. But it wasn't too good until once again Dick gets involved and throws powder on Yado, and then of course Evil applies the Texas Cloverleaf, and they had no other choice but to prove that this match was over. But however, Evil, being the cocky little SOB that he thinks he is, he thinks it's over. I won. Give it to me. However, there was a problem. Apparently, from what our ring announcer has discovered, there was a three-way tie. So basically, they had to break it. So it's going to be the House of Torture, LIJ's Tetsuya Naito and Hiromu Takahashi, Bolton Oldleg, and Yano. So of course, Evil was not satisfied, but however, it appears that they had a better plan. The House of Torture decided to play a little dirty game. They brought in three handcuffs. They handcuffed Oleg and Yano along with Naito because, of course, Evil will do whatever it takes. And I pray that these guys did not win because they're a bunch of losers, of course, trying to whine like little crybabies that they are. But however, of course, the young lions tried to get the key, but of course, Effin Dick gets involved, decided to have the key, but his sorry ass was taken out by Bushi. Thank you, Bushi. But however, Bushi did not he decided to only let loose Tetsuya Naito, so Bolton Logan and Yano were just right there. But they were able to get out. But luckily, thank God, Dick, Narita, and Evil, they've been handcuffed. And of course, Hiromu was so happy like a little clown because he outsmarted him again. This time he gets the last laugh. So this match leads only between Oleg and Yano. So, of course, Yano and LIJ. So you wouldn't expect how this match was going to go. But unfortunately, it was, of course, Tetsuya Naito who could have won this match by applying something else, but he applied the inside cradle on, of course, onto Bolton Oldleg, and they win the B block tournament. So that means they will face against none other than Sonata and, of course, the biggest crybaby of them all, Gabe Kidd. So I'm looking forward to see how's that because, of course, Gabe Kidd's like, I'm going to kill you, you son of a bitch. I'm going to kill you. F you, F you. Yeah, I want to see that. That's why I call him a crybaby because he talks too much. He cries, whines, and complains like a little baby. So we'll see what happens. So my bet, I hope it's Hiromu and Naito who wins this tournament. But for now, let's move on with our next review, and that is, of course, AEW Rampage. Okay, AEW Rampage. As we continue with more of the Continental Classic, so let's begin with the Blue League. So we have two matches of that, but let's start with the first one. We have, of course, Mark Briscoe versus Kazuchika Okada. Now remember, Briscoe was in last year's, but he did not advance in the whole thing. He did win his final match against Jay Lethal over that, but it was clearly. But however, Mark Briscoe did everything humanly possible to overcome the Rainmaker, but it did not do any well because Okada, well, he wins by applying the Rainmaker, giving him his next 3 points. So he has a total of three. So basically, he has no losses, just one draw and one win. So here's the math here, boys. If he wins his next match, he could be in the lead. So we'll see what happens. But of course, right after the match was over, Chris Jericho showed up to do a little promo, and then Matt Cardona, because as you all know, I reviewed Ring of Honor. Matt Cardona will be facing Chris Jericho at, of course, Final Battle and for the ROH title. So he had some things to say because he tells him, I don't need to prove anything to anybody. I just need to prove things to myself. And of course, Matt Cardona ended up in a 2-on-1 situation where he had to face not only Chris Jericho, the so-called Bad Apple was there too. But Matt Cardona for sure will get his retribution on those two before Final Battle. Now, as we continue in the Blue League in the Continental Classic, we have Beast Mortos and Daniel Garcia. Now, of course, Daniel Garcia has to be 100% focused. Now, remember, he did end up in a time limit draw with Okada, so he has to pick up a win to prove his point. But however, this has to boost a bit of his momentum as the current TNA champion. But of course, he has to deal with Beast Mortos, who's a beast. But luckily, it was a simple jackknife by Daniel Garcia that allowed him to pick up the win to get his next 3 points with a total 4 and Beast Mortos 0. But much like Okada, if he wins his next match, he could go up to 7 points. But we'll see where that leads us. Now, our next match is our only non-tournament match. It's ladies tag team match. We have the Vendettas, consistent of Deonna Purrazzo and Teo Valkyrie, taking on Elizabeth and Freya Slaya. Now, many of you may have heard of Freya Slaya. She originated from Alaska. She wrestled with many independent promotions, mostly with OVW. But it was a pretty interesting matchup. But however, this match I figured was going to fall in favor of the Vendetta by Purrazzo and of course Valkyrie, and that's how it ended up because Deonna applied a Fujiwara armbar on Elizabeth because the entire time Freya did not get involved in this match whatsoever. She wasn't even tagged, so they played a very interesting tactical way to win. So we'll see where that goes. Now, our main event, we have the Continental Classic Gold League. We have Ricochet and Commander. Now, remember, Commander is an alternate for Juice Robinson, who, in fact, is out on injury, and he became the alternate to take the place of Juice. So this is his first time participating. So many of you would think there's going to be a lot of high spots. Exactly what we expect. But, however, the real question you ask yourself, who was going to walk out? And I think many of you would agree that, of course, Ricochet, who has been well recognized more than Commander, but not to take away his style. Ricochet applied the elbow in order to get his first 3 points. So now he's on the board, leaving Commander still at the bottom. So we'll see what happens from here on out in the Continental Classic. We still got a long way to go, but for now we'll end things here with AEW Rampage and move on with NXT Level Up. Okay, so who levels up on this latest episode of NXT Level Up? Let's find out. Our first match, we have Dion Lennox versus someone we haven't seen for quite some time, Jasper Troy. Now, of course, size always matters, but not in this case unless you know what you're doing. Now, of course, Jasper Troy was dominating in this entirety of this match. So Dion Lennox has to find a way to do that. Of course, he tried to lift him up to do a suplex or whatever he was intending to do, but that failed him on various occasions. But I'm sure Jasper Troy was intending to put him away. But however, whatever happened, Lennox was able to apply a somewhat of a suplex power slam, and just like that, it was over, getting a very good win after him and of course his team were able to defeat Gallus, but nonetheless. Now, we did see, of course, an interview with Sarah where she talks to Layla Diggs. As you know, Layla Diggs has been in a bit of a rivalry with Lainey Reed, who cheated her way through their first match. But however, she said that this time she's not going to get away with anything. But however, before the start of the match, Lainey Reed said that she was done with her. She was feeling like I need to put her behind her, but she had no other choice. But you ask yourselves, can lightning strike twice? I mean, of course, Lainey Reed would definitely try to find a way to cheat her way through. That's exactly what she was doing. She almost got away with it, but luckily the refs saw it from a mile away. But it didn't do well. But it was Lainey Reed that was able to pick up a win with a knee strike, and just like that, it was over. But the question does remain, is this really over between Layla and Lainey? Well, we don't know yet. We will see what happens next week or the upcoming weeks on NXT Level Up. So I think that's pretty much it what we have for everything. So until then, let's just move on to our next thing and our final thing, news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news update. So this is what we have. So let's begin with, of course, upcoming events with the promotions. As always, we start with GCW. Now, two updates have been coming up from them, but this one are for next month in January in 2025. There's the Sorry Pal event on the 10th of January in Rochester, New York, also known as Brody Lee Country. 4 names have been announced that will be participating on that event. Gringo Loco, the tag team known as Infinity and Beyond, Joey Janela, and then finally Megan Bain. And then, of course, on the 19th of January of 2025 in New York, we have the People versus GCW. Joey Janela decided to issue a challenge against Masato Tanaka. So that's going to be a fun match to watch. Many of you may heard I did not put this on the review for New Japan. So before the first match of the World Title League started, the Ghetto was in fact, well, there was a message coming from Brody King issuing a challenge at Wrestle Dynasty against David Finlay. However, the real question is, how will Finlay respond? Well, that little creep Ghetto decided to show up and called Finlay for what he thinks. He thinks that Brody King, he's not a king himself. He thinks that it was a mistake for him to step on his turf. Well, we'll see what happens. He thinks that he's always will be in a shadow, and then he's gonna send them back to Tony Khan, or what he calls him, Uncle Tony. Well, we'll see about that. And then finally, House of Glory announced for their final warning event that takes place on the 25th of January. Absolute Ricky Starks will be involved. Now, on for some developments. We want to give congratulations to Mojo Rawley and his wife Grace on the birth of their first child, which is a baby boy. So, congratulations, guys. Wrestling Observer has reported about, of course, many of you know Hikuleo. We were expecting him to be on WWE as soon as possible, but from what they're saying, this is what people were speculating that he might have been injured, and this is what they reported. They report that for those asking about Hikuleo, he is still in WWE system. He's not injured, but he will be debuting NXT. Who knows when? But that's what we do know. Shingo Takagi has now been praised as being the longest reigning Never Openweight champion after 500 days. Now, finally, for our final development here on our updates, as you all know, Hinare has suffered an injury and most likely will be him and Great O'Connor will be relinquishing their tag team belts. But however, it appears that the match that we're supposed to have against the Bucks and Wrestle Dynasty may be postponed or canceled. But I wouldn't be surprised if, by some means necessary, that in the finals of World Tag League they just hand over the IWGP tag team belts, and of course the Bucks make their way through. So we'll see what happens. But for now, we'll leave things as it is, and we'll just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up We will do AEW Collision, but as we speak, before I go to bed, we do have the latest Stardom event and New Japan event, so we will see if I'm able to see that. I'm already a bit behind with Choco Pro with their latest event, number 411, called Rivals. I may do that at some point, but we will see. And there's the MLW show I haven't seen for a long time. I haven't seen any MLW shows for a while, but I may be starting, maybe, I don't know, tomorrow or by the time or whenever I can. But we'll see how things will go for it. So AW Collision will be on the top of the list, but we will see what happens. But for now, let's just move forward from here on out. And until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.